Tonight, the Mueller probe could be winding down and the report could be completed as early as next week. A former top official in the Clinton Justice Department joins us to discuss what we can expect and what we might actually get to see. Then we take a look at President Trump's national security team and how it could lose another key player. Turns out you disagree with the boss, you're shown the door, and frankly, there's been a whole lot to disagree with. Empire actor Jussie Smollett appeared in court today to face the charges that he lied to the cops. And for what? He looked for the almighty buck. We're going to show you what happened and also discuss the ramifications and the reaction. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. After nearly 2 years, the Russia probe could be in the ninth inning. I stress could. CNN saying that the report could be completed as early as next week. The special counsel regulations say that Mueller must submit a confidential report to Attorney General William Barr, but rules do not require it to be shared with Congress. The president, he was just asked about this. Here's Donald Trump.
Mr. President, should the Mueller report be released while you're abroad next week?
That'll be totally up to the new Attorney General. That'll be totally up to him.
Should the report become public, do you think?
I guess from what I understand, that will be totally up to the Attorney General.
For their part, Senate Democrats say they're prepared to subpoena the report if the AG does not release the entire report to them. And during his confirmation hearings, you may remember, Barr was certainly asked about the report. Here's what he said then.
Will you commit to making any report Mueller produces at the conclusion of his investigation available to Congress and to the public?
As I said in my statement, I am going to make as much information available as I can, consistent with the rules and regulations that are part of the special counsel regulations.
Will you commit to making any report on the obstruction of justice public?
That's the same answer.
Thank you.
Okay, so while that's the main course here, there were a few sideshows. Roger Stone, he was in court late this afternoon. The judge slapped him with a gag order, but she did not revoke his bail and throw him in jail. He apologized for posting a picture of the judge with crosshairs near her head and admitted it was a stupid thing to do. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more, Harry Littman, a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General appointed by President Clinton and also a former federal prosecutor in his own right. Harry, thank you for the time. Let's first start with the Stone fiasco. Were you surprised that he had the, I guess, common sense to actually apologize for something, but more, why did they put him on the stand? I didn't understand that.
That is a really great point that nobody has picked up on. Compare him to Manafort, who time after time assiduously stayed off the stand. This is actually the first time in the probe that any important player has had to face cross-examination. Everyone else has avoided it, so it was quite dramatic, and he didn't have to go on. They could easily have maneuvered for him not to. It just seems like a bonehead move to me. First, it didn't help him. The judge found him incredible. Second, all the things he said can be used against him in the future. That was the most remarkable aspect of the hearing. Remember, these were lawyers. You know, Stone apparently doesn't have a lot of money. The people don't know these lawyers. They had trouble even filing the proper forms to be in federal court. It's possible that they're just so unsophisticated that they made this blunder.
Now we get to Mr. Cohen and his testimony next week. Lanny Davis has promised that in effect, we're going to hear some salacious details. Allegedly, the president talking, as then a client before he was president and during, but using racial tones, etc. Is this going to be more atmospherics, Harry, or do you believe that there could be some substance here that could impact, especially if we don't hear, from the Mueller report before we obviously hear from Mr. Cohen? Right,
and this is stuff that is not dead center in the Mueller report. The stuff that is centrally involved in the Mueller report that Cohen knows about, he will not be testifying about. That's been arranged. But yeah, speaking of bad lawyering, I think it was ill-advised for Lanny Davis to promise these lurid, salacious details, but I think we are going to get them, and they could be completely new, right? We haven't really had any public revelations of some of the dirty dealings, and there must have been many of them in the period before Trump even becomes a candidate. And presumably that's going to be part of what he has to say. And it looks as if he is really ready to tell all. And there's, Trump is both a vulgar and ruthless businessman. If he wants to tell tales, I'm sure there'll be some real tales to tell.
Now to the principal story here in the Mueller report. If some of the conjecture is right, and hypothetically for this conversation, Harry, let's assume as early as next week or soon thereafter, the Mueller report comes down. Without trying to take a guess as to what will be in the report, there are so many different variations of how the report can be presented. Could you lay out for our audience what the expectation should be in terms of the parameters that Mueller may choose to deliver it? Obviously, as we said off the top, it's going to go directly to the Attorney General, but it doesn't have to be in one single form. Could you explain?
Sure. The parameters are broad, and let me say prefatory, I'm not at all persuaded it's going to happen next week or it's going to be the full report. But by the letter of the regs, it's simply a bare-bones statement of who was investigated and who was declined. You could imagine it's simply reciting, we did these indictments, and we looked at these 5 people and decided not to investigate them. That's one possibility. There is, and that seems to be what the regs call for. But Barr has said that he will look to give more information, not less, consistent with the law. And you have to imagine Mueller, even though he's a by-the-book guy, understands the public imperative of more information. So if he's going fuller, what could he do? It could be a little bit of a roadmap, as Leon Jaworski did in Watergate, that was really a product almost for the Congress to take up and investigate. It could be the kind of 100-page memo that Mueller wrote when he did some special investigations in private practice, going through everything. At that point, there would be an issue of expurgating possibly grand jury material, classified material, and possibly information about people who are not charged. I personally think we're not getting the full report next week, but I understand I'm in the minority here. But I think whatever we do get will be, and whatever Congress gets and the public gets, will be more detailed rather than less. That Barr and Mueller understand it's important to the American public, and they probably also understand that there's no keeping it bottled up. Even if they try to give a bare-bones recitation, somehow with this kind of importance, there's like a hydraulic pressure, and the fuller truth will out one way or another.
And finally, in terms of expectations, and obviously you've forgotten more than I know, but there seems to be an inevitability that we won't get some redacted, or we're going to get the full report, certainly the Senate and hopefully the public. When that day comes, do you think the public will say, wow, he stayed in a pretty narrow lane here, or that Mueller, at least by his MO, will broaden it to at least answer the multitude of questions that seemingly need to be added by the week here as his probe widened? Will he be more focused, or will this be more of a broad report with so many different tangential probes and investigations?
My surmise has always been on this, and it remains my best guess that it will be broader. Yes, Mueller is a by-the-book guy, but the book here doesn't just call for him to investigate and charge some people. It calls for him to investigate, and that's the operative word. He has underscored that more than even prosecute. What happened in the 2016 election was there malign coordination between Russia and the Trump campaign. So I think that those are the questions he's been commissioned to answer, and I think he will do his best to answer them, and that, to me, portends a broader report.
All right. Harry, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, when we come back on the other side of the break, we dig into the president's relationship with his own intelligence community. And trust me, I don't care who you voted for. If you believe in the national security of this country, this will be a jaw-dropping story. We'll take a look at the consequences of the rifts that he's caused with his own appointees. Stay with us.